Hi, ladies. Welcome to today's live broadcast. So happy you're here. And I just want to welcome you, Jaki Sabourin here. And today we're going to talk about when to compromise in relationships. And I think this is, it's an interesting topic because it could be really confusing on when to compromise. You don't want to make any sacrifices, especially when it comes to your core values, your beliefs, and your needs. So I don't recommend compromising in those areas because then they start to feel like a sacrifice. And when we start making those sacrifices in relationships, they can really affect our mutual respect for each other. They can build resentment when you're making sacrifices to your needs, your values, and your beliefs. And the last thing we want is to begin to create resentments in a relationship, because those are the things that can cause serious relationship breakdown. Hi, Helene. Nice to see you here. Welcome. Okay, and so let's talk about when you compromise. So what is a compromise? It's when you want to create this bridge that you cross over so that both parties in the relationship needs get met, right? So it's a mutual concession. And it has to happen in relationships. There's going to be a series of compromises throughout your relationships. And it's important to recognize that, and also to be flexible. So the feminine energy is all about being flexible. It's all about flexibility. And so it doesn't necessarily, when I think about compromise in my own relationship with Michael, I look back and there have been many, many compromises that I've had to make in order to feel comfortable in the relationship, feel happy, happiness restored in the relationship. And so let me give you some examples. And so some of the examples is when we were dating and he wanted me to move in with him after we were engaged. I had a house full of furniture, right? I had dishes and pictures and all kinds of, knickknacks and linens and just, 30 years, a life of things, material possessions in my home. And when Michael asked me to move in with him, I was like, huh? I go, what am I going to do with all my stuff? And he said, get rid of it. And I was, of course, initially triggered, meaning, that got my heart going a little bit. I got a little tight in the chest and I was thinking, who does he think he is? And I'm going to get rid of all my stuff. My stuff's great. So I said, let me think about it, because I always really recommend you using the term, let me think about it, because that gives you some time between whatever's going on, some space to process how you want to proceed or not proceed. And so I started to think about and look at the things that I had, and I looked at his place, and my bigger vision was what I was looking at. So when it comes to compromise, you always want to check in with your bigger vision. So my vision was to get married, right, and be with Michael. Now, I had an ocean view and he didn't have an ocean view, and I didn't want to give up my ocean view. And so I had invited him to move in with me, but he said, no, I want you to move in with me. So I agreed to move in with him. And I went home that day and I looked at all my things. And as much as I love my furniture and all my pictures, what I loved more is Michael and being in a relationship with Michael. And he had beautiful furniture. And so I started to think, what if I really got rid of everything, like everything? And I started to think about what that would feel like. And I realized I had a lot of attachments to all these things, right? Of course, they had memories, and I got a lot of the things when my kids were growing up, and I shipped them over from Hawaii. So there was an attachment to quite a bit of the material possessions. But I started to get really kind of excited about thinking, wow, what if I did get rid of everything, like everything? So I decided to make a compromise, right? Not because it was against a sacrifice or my core values, beliefs, or needs, right? But it was actually a leap of faith. So I decided that I was going to go ahead and get rid of everything and move in with Michael with my, I had like 2 pieces of furniture that I really treasured. And then all of my clothes. Of course, that was a lot. And what ended up happening was magic. He was really excited about that. I ended up getting rid of everything on Craigslist. And I moved in with him. And what was magical about it was that I trusted the process. And right after I moved in with him, about 6 months later, the unit upstairs became for sale, which was a corner unit. We were already underneath the corner, but we were on the 2nd floor, and the 3rd floor, the top floor of our 3-story building, became for sale. it went on the market and we bought it. So we moved upstairs, and upstairs was a completely different vibe. It was all, a woman had owned it. So it was all white, and she'd left all of her dishes in the kitchen. That great. And guess what? The dishes were great. We actually liked the dishes more than we liked Michael's, because I didn't even bring my dishes. So I ended up getting all new dishes and this brand new fabulous all white condo that was remodeled by a woman. So that's what I mean by sometimes you make these compromises and really great things happen. And how I was able to do that is letting go of control and also staying in my feminine energy and really assessing, do I really need those things? And I'm so glad I made that decision. I had no idea what was on the other side of it, but what I experienced was something really, really fabulous. And so let me give you some other examples. And ladies, if you have any questions, I'd love to give you some coaching. It doesn't have to be relevant to this topic. So other little compromises that you're going to end up making when you're dating a man are, meeting family members, how holidays are spent. If you're starting to date somebody and here the fall's coming, if you're seeing somebody, you're going to have to make some compromises, maybe in where you're going to spend Thanksgiving. Maybe you're going to spend Thanksgiving separately. Maybe you're going to go with your family and he's going to go with his because you haven't spent enough time together. And that's a compromise you need to be making in to support the vision of the relationship. And I made compromises to my holiday plans. So Michael likes to spend 2 weeks in Utah, and every other year his kids join us. But I don't want to leave my children in La Jolla for Christmas, so I end up, he goes a week ahead, and I go there on Christmas Day or the day after Christmas. So at first that was really hard for me because I really wanted to spend Christmas Day with him, but it's a compromise that I chose to make because I was divorced. I have kids. He has kids. And that's just how it worked out for the best for the vision, the bigger picture. And yes, do I miss him up until Christmas? Of course I do. But I made a choice, and instead of resenting him for it, I made that choice consciously, because what happens is you can make compromises, but if you're sacrificing a need or a value, then you are going to be resentful. So that's the rule of thumb. Do not sacrifice on your values. For example, if you don't drink, and you get involved with a man who drinks, if he drinks moderately, that could work for you, but it might not work for you if you don't like to drink alcohol. Then I would say that's a deal breaker for you, and you can't compromise on that, or the relationship is going to become challenged, and you don't want that. And so what are some of the other compromises? And ladies, I would love to get some feedback from you on that you've made in support of your relationship. So what are the other compromises, or some of the compromises you've made in support of your relationship? And so some of the other compromises I will say that I wasn't willing to make in terms of my values is compromising on, how much time I'm going to, like on the weekends, I like to take time to myself on Sunday. I don't want to compromise giving my time up to meeting people for lunch or whatever. Sometimes in the past, Michael really likes to do certain things on the weekends. And so I don't want to compromise my value of spending downtime for myself, meditating, journaling, reading. Those are really important things for me. So I make sure I schedule that. And I can't compromise that because it really affects me in terms of my week and my balance and everything. And so, hi, Stephanie. Thanks for being here. And so what are some of the compromises, lady? You guys are really quiet today. I would love to hear from you. I love when you post questions, and it doesn't have to be about this topic. And so let's get back to your core values, needs, and beliefs. So I guess if you are practicing a certain faith, then that would be something that would be very hard to compromise on, because it's your belief system. And if you don't share the same belief systems, it could cause a lot of turmoil in your relationship. And some of your values, like I said before, your core values, your ethics, maybe your political views, those are areas that are going to be hard to compromise on because they're your beliefs, right? And your needs is really a big one. Needs are very important, and they need to be actually spelled out when you're in a relationship. If you don't know what your partner's needs are and he doesn't know what your needs are, you can't make assumption that he's going to be able to read your mind and provide those needs for you. And you don't have to compromise on a need. For example, I'll just share, I love getting fresh flowers. I've shared this before. I lived in Hawaii for years, and there's so much flora there. There's, orchids, and there's flowers everywhere. And so I always had flowers in the home, and I love flowers, and what woman doesn't, right? But it was really important to me to have fresh flowers in the home, and it was fun to ask Michael to buy those for me. So one of my values was that he would provide that, and he agreed to. And then he provided a list of core values that were important to him. For example, meeting him at the front door, greeting him at the front door when he came home from work. Important to him. That was a value that he didn't need to compromise on, because I was willing to accommodate him. Sometimes there are harder compromises, like prenuptial agreements. Maybe you don't believe in a prenuptial agreement, and your partner's asking you for one, so you may need to make a compromise. And I think that prenuptial agreements are pretty common now. And I'm not going to say they're good or bad, wrong or right. I think that each couple has to decide what's best for them. But if you do are asked to participate in a prenuptial agreement, make it work for you. Don't be all, oh my gosh, I can't believe he asked me that. Make sure that you are taken care of in that agreement. They're for both parties to feel safe. If your partner needs to feel safe, I think that that's something that you want to go ahead and do, and make sure that it has language in there that outlines exactly how you're going to feel safe. And so it's a win-win for both of you. So I really encourage you to be open-minded about that. And really, this conversation is all about being open-minded and not being so rigid in our thinking that things have to be a certain way, that they should be a certain way. Because, when we start shooting on ourselves and shooting on our relationships, that's when we start to have all these regrets. I should have done this, or I should have done that. And so stay out of that shitting. Just stay in the now and stay in the flow. I'll give you another example. The weekend before last was our anniversary, and we had it all set to how we were going to spend our weekend. But guess what? We forgot that Michael's daughter was coming to visit. We'd already, invited her to stay with us. We were excited about seeing her. And then we're like, oh my gosh. So we had to change our plans. We were going to go to Utah for a weekend and celebrate our anniversary. But guess what? We had to cancel our plans. That was a compromise. It's okay. So we changed the plan, but I'm really easygoing about things like this because I know life is filled with twists and turns, and I've embraced the twists and turns. Instead of thinking that life just needs to be one straight highway, it's just not the case. And so I'm able to pivot, in that moment, like, let's just reschedule our flights. We'll go. And we just came back, and we were there last weekend. So everything does work out as long as you're willing to stay in the flow of your relationship. And so I'm just looking to see if there's anything on YouTube. I don't see any questions there. 5 years dating a guy without a commitment. So 5 years, I'm sure you've had some wonderful experiences, right? And you probably learned a lot about yourself and what you want. And now if you do want a commitment, you either need to have a conversation with him and mean it. Let me just talk into this. If you have conversations, you're from Utah. Oh, we were up in Deer Valley, Stephanie. So let me talk about this. This is actually a great topic. I'm going to kind of go off this topic about what I was just talking about compromise. But if you've been with a man for a long time and he hasn't committed to you, here's what has to happen. When you have to get to a place inside where you are sure that you are done with the relationship as it is. So if you decided that I can go no further with the status quo of the relationship, I really want to get married, for example, then you would need to come to a place internally that you will stand on that decision. In other words, you will not waffle when you have the conversation and that's like, I really want to get married. Let's talk about it. Where do you stand with that? And really encourage him to be honest with you. And if he says he doesn't want that, you need to be able to stand in your truth and vote with your feet and say, I'm sorry to hear that. Kind of breaks my heart, but it's really important to me to have that long-term commitment. So it sounds like that we've gone as far as we could, and it's time for us to to look at, moving on. So I know that's a hard conversation. That's not exactly what I would say, but you get my gist, right? So you really need to be clear in your heart of hearts, and you have the emotional courage to walk that path. Because once you say it once and you keep saying it, man's not going to believe you. So you have to be ready with that. It's not an ultimatum. It's just you've come to a place in your life, a fork in the road, and you need to go one way. And if he can't go that way with you, you're going to go on your own. And you just got to get to that place, because that's a value, right? That's a value. That's a core value that you want to be married. So you cannot compromise on that. And if you do, it really hurts your heart. It hurts yourself. So get really clear before you have those conversations, and maybe put some things in, a couple little steps in place in case he does want to break up and find different partners, that you aren't so floored with it. You kind of prepared yourself for that. And believe it or not, when you've made that internal decision has a frequency, and he's going to see within you, by how you are behaving, that you really mean it. And he's going to take note of that way more than he would if you were just to say, kind of test the waters. I don't recommend testing the waters, because then you kind of give him a heads up that you're not happy. And what he hears is he can't make you happy, instead of, I want to get married. And then he can use that as a reason to not commit further, because, he can't make you happy. All you want is something more. Thank you. Somebody just wished me a happy anniversary. So ladies, if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, now would be a good time, so that you don't miss the notification that I'm going live. I go live every Thursday. And then on Facebook, if you are coming in on Facebook and you have not liked my page, that'll give you notifications that I'm going live. Please do so. And if you're feeling strongly, you can give me a review as well. So I want to share something with you before I go, because I don't see any more questions. This is my new go-to. I just love. I'm going to come back to that question, Stephanie. I just love this. This is what it is. It's Huda Beauty, and this is a contour and strobe lip set. Oh, I just love it. It's called a Bombshell tray, and I just wanted to share my find with you. It comes in this cute little tin, and it's got a lip liner, a lipstick, and then a shimmer that goes right over. And that's the color I'm wearing. So it's pretty neutral, but I absolutely love not only the texture on my lips, but the way it looks. And it's kind of hard to tell in the videos that have these bright lights, but it's pretty neutral, a little shimmering. And guess what? It's staying on. I love it. And you know what else I love? The new fall colors. I love this copper. I think this is great. Camisoles are really, really popular right now. So I would go get yourself a couple camisoles. I got a yellow one, a black one, and then this copper one. And then you can pair a camisole with like a little mini blazer. So this is like a little mini blazer. It's got a crop sleeve as they go into the fall. And it's really, it's not real long. So I recommend you stay away from, if you're going to go into the blazers, which I think are fabulous, grab a couple of them. But make sure you stay away from those business boxy ones. Make sure that they are feminine, because we don't want to, you don't want to show up for a date in a masculine looking suit. But these new blazers that are out are really fabulous, and they're very feminine and really pretty. So go ahead and look for your fall colors palettes that you're going to be using, and pick yourself up a couple of new date night outfits so that you can feel really confident, frisky, and fun in your fall colors. So let me answer a question here. There's a couple more questions. So she broke up with him, and it's been 3 weeks. Yeah, Stephanie, that's right. You have to work on you now. 5 years is a good amount of time to spend with somebody to find out if you want to spend the rest of your life together. And I find, in my experience, and this is just my opinion, anything after 2 years, it starts getting into, why get married? Everything's great. And it's like, well, because I want to, right? So I would start to look for that, proposal within the first 2 years for sure. Ideally the first year, but within 2 years, so that you can move forward with your life. That's really what it's all about. It's like, how long can you put a house in escrow for? You eventually want to close and move into the house, right? So when you're in limbo, relationship limbo, it's like you're in escrow. When is it going to close? Because you're just waiting. It's like you're not quite off the ground. The relationship isn't quite off the ground. That is if you want to be in a committed relationship. If you're dating for fun and casual, there's no need. You can stay in escrow for as long as you want. So let me answer this question. You hang in there, Stephanie. You're going to be just fine. In fact, you're going to be better than you ever have been, because now you're really following your heart and standing in your truth. So what would have happened if you had given away all your stuff and moved in with Michael, and then let me just read her question, then he did not want to get married and you did? Great question. I already had an engagement ring, so I didn't move in without the engagement ring. But you're right. What if after we were engaged and I moved in with him and he still didn't want to get married? Then I would have moved out. That's exactly what I would have done. I promise you. I guarantee you. I know me, and when I set my sights on something, I keep my word to myself. And it's because of a lot of the work that I teach and have done on myself. But in order to create anything in life, you really have to learn to keep your word to yourself. So I would have to keep my word to myself that I want a relationship that leads to marriage. And so if he didn't want that, I would have moved out and got my own place and got a bunch of new things, right? So I don't regret giving any of those things away. And it was kind of refreshing at, almost 50 to start over with all new things. That was really refreshing, not to be reminded by my past so much. So yeah, I just would have moved out and started over. And you know how many times I've started over in my life, ladies? How many times have you had to start over? Major over 2 or 3 times. So you get pretty good at it after a while. So starting over has its perks. You get to rewrite the story. So yeah, I would have started over. And so I don't see any more questions. So ladies, I really appreciate you all being here. Thank you so much. Really looking forward to connecting with you again next week. I'm going to have some more fashion things to share with you since fall's coming and we're changing seasons. Kind of nice to share, to collaborate with our look and everything. And I actually want to share, the last thing is I just had my hair, I did my roots a little darker and just pulled some of that dark through. I still have the highlights, but I'm kind of moving into a richer look. It's not as dark as it was before in the summer when I had a hair problem, but I kind of toned down the highlights and kind of going for a little richer look. So I changed up my makeup to be, actually I have a makeup palette here. I was going to show you this next year, but this is the one of my favorite makeup palettes. And it's really affordable, and they've got a lot of great colors in here that will match a lot of the colors that are coming out. And I'll post this in the comment box below so you can take a look at it. They've got a lot of all these colors in that palette match the colors that are coming out this fall. So okay, ladies, how can you tell if a guy wants you for financial reasons? So last question, how can you tell if a guy wants you for financial reasons? That's a good question. And so I guess it just, how much are you doing for him? How much are you paying for? I would create healthy boundaries around how much you're going to contribute and make sure you have some conscious conversations about your contribution. And so I guess you could say, if we turn that around, how can a man tell that a woman isn't after his finances? So I think that if there is some wealth involved, that there will be some concern, right? But I remember one of my coaches said to me, and I thought this was really brilliant. I had just got divorced, so I had a little bit of a settlement that I received for my first divorce, and I was worried about, a man taking advantage of me, and I said, what should I do about this situation? And he said, well, Jackie, are you going to give him your money? And I said, no, I'm not. So it's all about boundaries, right? So it's all about holding boundaries around your resources that you have. If you have a little bit more abundance, financial abundance in your partner, which I think is perfectly fine. And then making sure that you're talking more about it and you're being really clear. And I would definitely not give, this is the bigger question than we have time for, but it's a really important one. And perhaps I should create a video on it. In fact, I think I will. How to tell if a guy wants you for financial reasons. Great topic. And I'm sorry I don't have time, Linda, to cover that entirely, but you're just watching what it is you're doing, really about your boundaries around money. How much are you doing? Are you overgiving and look at the reason behind the overgiving, if that's going on. What is the reason why you might be doing things financially for your partner? Is it for his approval? Is it so that he's happy with you? I mean, you have to look at your own, what your own intention is behind that, and see if you can find an area that you might be not meaning to, but self-sabotaging by over-giving in order to get something from him, love, approval, admiration, anything like that. And as long as you have healthy boundaries and you communicate well, I wouldn't worry about that too much. Unless you have weak boundaries, then that's going to be a real problem for you. And so I will make a training on that because it's a great topic. So, ladies, I am going to see you next week on my live broadcast, 3 o'clock Pacific, 6 o'clock Eastern, right here. Bring your questions, as I love to do coaching in the moment. And any questions that you post in the thread, I'll answer after the broadcast. Check the comment box for the name of all these products that I was showing you. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel and like my Facebook page. Okay, ladies, I've got something wonderful coming for you next week. So keep an eye in your inbox so that you will receive the notice about what's coming this fall from Jaki to help you get into a committed relationship this year. All right, sending you all lots of love. Bye. Bye, ladies.